Finally, the Hero 11 Black Mini is out, and guess what? I got one. That's right. I was so stoked on this camera when I heard that it was first coming. I wanted to get it on launch day of the Hero 11 Black, and they didn't release this camera. I was in Hawaii. It was gonna be perfect. I was gonna have all the cinematic footage from a sweet new camera. Then they said, no problem, we'll drop it in October. October 25th came, and I was so stoked and ready to go and get it that very same day, and the morning of, we're gonna delay it to November 18th. I was a little butthurt, not gonna lie, but I sucked it up and I was gonna wait and be patient. Then this morning, I'm scrolling social media and I see people with the Hero 11 Black Mini. They like quiet released it. I think today, I don't know, it may have been a couple of days. Nobody sent me an email, nobody told me, but I went online, I got one at Best Buy. I ran up here to Raleigh in order to pick it up because they didn't have one down by me, but I've got the Hero 11 Black Mini. So let's see what this thing can do. Okay, let's start with an unboxing. Now, I mean, I'm not one for unboxing things. I'm not nice and neat. So we're just gonna like rip it open. It's the standard GoPro little zip pack. They're not gonna make a special one. It would cost too much money to retool for a different camera. They managed to fit the 11 Mini inside. Imagine that, the smaller camera also fits. Ooh. Okay. You know, all right, look. In the past, I flew GoPros since like the Hero 4 Silver all the way through the 8. The 9, I just could not get on board with the size. I tried a 10 briefly, and while I love the quality, the DJI Action 2 was just so much lighter, and I went to it. While I love the Action 2's weight and how small it is, the usability of it, the fact that it has built-in memory, a built-in battery, and you've got the little external module that you have to move footage to, has always been a pain, but that's not even been my biggest gripe. My biggest gripe with that camera is actually the dynamic range of it. The footage always just bugged me. Now, some people don't like the really wide field of view on that camera. I, for one, was a big fan of the field of view on the Action 2. However, that dynamic range just was not for me. So when GoPro said that they are coming back with a smaller camera, the Mini here, the Hero Black Mini, the GoPro Hero 11 Black Mini. Man, that is too many things in a name. I'm just gonna call it the GoPro Mini from here on out. So the GoPro Mini, it's not a session, but we're getting all of the goodness of the Hero 11 Black inside of this form factor. Before I put it on my drone and go fly, I wanna make sure that it has all the things that I want out of the footage. So I'm gonna hook it up to my phone, make sure it's on the newest firmware, and set it with the flat color profile, the 4K, well, maybe we'll do 4K 30, maybe, actually we'll be doing 5K, either 30 or 60 frames per second, probably the 30, because that's what I always do. I'm gonna stick with what I know. 5K, 30, flat color profile, enable the 10-bit color. That is one of the things I'm most excited about. I really want to see how this color grades up next to this camera, my Sony a7 IV. See if it's a little bit easier for me to get a color match and be able to really push and pull that in the grade later. We'll get into that later on in the video. Settings, 4K 60. No, I want 5.3K. I want 30 frames per second. I want super view. I want, what else do I want? Super view, hyper smooth is on, timer off, 10-bit. I want 10-bit on. Yes! Okay. I'm so excited about that. Bitrate, we're going high. Shutter, auto, EV comp, we're leaving. We're not gonna mess with the exposure. White balance, auto, sharpness, medium. The default is medium now. That is nice. Color, I don't want natural, I want flat. Raw audio off, wind, auto, all of that is fine. Boom. That is how I want to shoot. And with that, we're ready to go. So without wasting any more time, let's get this mounted up to a drone. I don't have a like fancy 3D print that I'm gonna slide into. I'm hopeful that I can save some weight by removing these mounts, which they do have hardware for removing. I don't know if you can see that or not. Let's see, do the back ones as well? Yep. The back one does as well. So when I get a proper 3D print for this guy that I can slide it into. I'm gonna be removing both of these. I think Bardwell said that each one is around 15 grams. So if we take off both of these, that's gonna be 30 grams, which will get this guy down to 100 grams. And that's like 2 of your Action 2s, but I think that's a livable weight. That might even be a little bit lighter than the Hero 8. So I gotta throw a mount on. We're just gonna use the little 2 flippy floppies on the bottom for today, and we'll get some flying in. Unfortunately, it's a windy day. The clouds just rolled in. It was beautiful and sunny, and I was gonna get to show off that dynamic range, but hopefully everything is exactly what you would expect from a Hero 11 Black. We all know what to expect from the GoPro. This is just gonna be a little bit lighter and fewer things to break. No front facing screen, no rear facing screen, just a little status screen on the top of it. Let's get it on a quad and see how she flies. I'm gonna keep it over here. So, my initial thoughts right off the bat is it's a little bit heavier. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not gonna say I can't feel it, but I don't think this is a deal breaker in the same way that some of the really fat GoPros have been for me. Whew. Okay, okay. Had to like really pull back in order to save that. I'm definitely used to a much lighter quad these days. Getting lots of low battery warnings already. These batteries have been charged in my bag for way too long. I don't know. I like the feel of it. It is a happy medium in terms of momentum, weight, and maneuverability. I'm starting to feel sprinkles. Now, to be fair, I am flying very conservative here. I do not want to crash with the GoPro really unprotected on the top of this drone. Okay, so after that first flight, I can tell you that the heat sink on the back of the GoPro is not warm in the least. It's not really hot out here today. It's pretty much like 70, 72 degrees and lots of airflow while I'm flying. I don't think overheating is gonna be an issue except for maybe in the harshest of conditions with this guy. I've seen other people with tests where they were able to get it to overheat, but as soon as they just put a fan on it in their house, it wasn't. And that was at the 5K 60 frames per second and above. But, you know, so far, I'm really happy. I think there's gonna be a little bit of a recalibration for me in terms of the weight. I definitely want to find a 3D print that is going to encapsulate the GoPro and protect it a little bit more. I don't feel comfortable with it hanging out up on top of the drone like this, but I'm gonna put in one more pack today just to, you know, because I wanna fly. I'm out here. It's, it might be a little bit overcast. It might be a little bit windy, but we're here and we're flying. So, beep, beep. Back to them GoPro sounds. Well, we're getting some big old twitches from the wind here. Give it a nice little stable run. Come over here near me. That was a pretty aggressive turn just before that. I'd like to see how the stabilization works out. My batteries are crying for mercy, as they should be. Yeah, I'm really curious to get a lighter weight to shed a few grams with, okay, let's rephrase that. Really curious to shed a few grams by pulling these mounts off but we're gonna add weight back with a big old 3D print. So I don't know. It's probably gonna come out as a wash in the end. This is probably pretty close to my all-up weight after it's all said and done. There's definitely some twitching going on in terms of the flight. Curious how Hypersmooth is going to handle that. The GoPro stabilization has always been fantastic and only gotten better since they purchased Real Steady. So I really expect that this is going to be a non-issue. I said I was going to be tame and I'm just out here beating it. All right, and that is gonna do it for the flying. Let's go back to the house and see how this footage looks, how it's gonna color grade and stack up against the A7 IV footage. Is it gonna be the answer to all of my questions? I really hope that it is. Stay tuned. Okay, so I know we're kind of like jumping forward and back in the video. You've already seen the flight footage, but this is me doing the color grade to the GoPro footage itself. Now, I've already pulled it in and messed around with it a little bit, and as you may have noticed in the first half of the video, the white balance was jumping all over the place. This was not the ideal day to do this test. There were storms rolling in, the lighting was changing dynamically like every couple of minutes throughout all of the intro and even during the flights themselves. One of the harder things to color grade are these overcast days to get a look that you like, especially to get a consistent look throughout the video. I even had to make a few corrections to the intro clips with the A7 IV because the white balance on it was changing throughout the thing. Yes, I do shoot auto white balance. I know. It's okay. But let's get into how I color grade the footage from the GoPro Mini. Now, as I'd said before, that this was a harder lighting condition to color grade. This is the Sony footage just before my takeoff, okay? So I'm gonna use this as reference footage in order to match the two. Now, as you can see over here, I've already applied a LUT. I personally use some Phantom LUTs. If you have a Sony, I highly recommend the Phantom LUTs. Go Google it, you will see what I'm talking about. This is shot in S-Log3. Now, there is no equivalent to that on the GoPro themselves. I have shot with a flat color profile, but you can see that the untouched footage looks very different from the Sony footage. Now, a good rule of thumb to get things kind of close, I don't always do this, but on days like this, it's more helpful. On a sunny day, I don't typically have to even do this step. So what I'm doing is looking for a scene that looks about like the same scene from the Sony footage. So now that I've found a clip that looks like that, I'm gonna highlight the clip I'm matching to. I'll come up here. I don't use this often enough to even remember the keyboard shortcut. It is Option Command M. And now we come back over here and we're going to pick a clip of this to match to. So right here, apply the match. And now that one didn't take really well. Let's try a different one. Okay, I didn't like how the first one looked, so we're going to redo it. We're going to match from right here. Help, match color. Come in here. Select this one spot. Bam. I think that looks a little bit better. Now, it's still not really S-Log footage. The gamma is not the same. I know. If you know what you're talking about with color grading, don't sit here and tell me how wrong I am. I am aware of how wrong I am. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull in the same LUT that I used on the Sony footage. And you can see it looks way different. Now, typically when you're trying to match color grades, you will do a correction layer. I like to use the color wheels for my correction layer. So I'm going to leave this stacks on top of each other. The top thing is the first thing that's applied, and then the next and the next. So I'm sliding that color wheels in between my match color and the LUT that I've applied. And now I'm going to go in here, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull that saturation down because it's clearly too high. Now the next thing, because the dynamic range is not the same as the Sony, typically you have to brighten up your shadows a little bit and maybe even pull down the highlights. Now I am going to look over here. The monitor that I have right in front of me is not the best for color grading, and I'm actually recording off of this monitor and matching it over. So I just want to look at what I'm doing on the other screen. Let's see, it's a little bit washed out. I'm going to pull the shadows back down just a little bit. I'm going to bring up my midtones. While this isn't the best GoPro footage I've ever captured by any stretch of the imagination, I think that it's a pretty good approximation of my Sony footage, with the LUT applied, to this. And when I do just a picture-in-picture of me standing there, or cut this footage together, I think that I have it close enough where it's going to be okay. Now, I might tweak the shadows a little bit here and there. I might do a little bit extra, but that has basically got it. I'm just going to go ahead. I've got this other clip here. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to paste what I've done to this clip. Bam. And now I have both clips all color corrected. That easy. Now, while I've got you here, I wanted to do a couple of other little experiments. Namely, I have a scale. So I know we all know the GoPro Mini should come in right at 130 grams. I got 132, probably because I stuck that SD card into it. However, what I want to do next is start taking off these mounts. I have already found a mount available on Thingiverse. A good friend of mine, the FPV Geek, has already catted one up. It looks like a solid option. Someone else has, I think what they did is remixed it and did it for an Apex, which also works on the TBS Source 1, which is what I primarily fly these days. All right, getting the screws out. I don't have a driver on here. It's just the extension for the torque screw. Okay, come on out. I guess I should be putting these on the scale as well. But I'm taking off the back connector, the back little flange first, because I don't really see this camera ever getting used off of that back flange. Maybe if I was going to use one as a stick cam, that is a possibility. Maybe if I was, I don't know. We'll see if I ever use one. I'm going to leave the bottom one on for right now because I still don't have that printed. I'm going to start printing it either tonight or tomorrow so that I have that for myself so I can just slide it in and not have these little connectors. I've never been a huge fan of it. It also protects the GoPro quite a bit more in cases of crashes. So let's see, how much does the adapter plate weigh? We have 2 of these to take off, keep in mind. So the adapter on its own, oh man, I totally did not remember that right, is 7 grams. All right, so this, the GoPro minus 1 adapter should be 125. 124. Okay, so if I take off the next adapter, we're going to be in the 115, yeah, it's not great. Man, I was hoping that it was like 30 grams that I was taking off with these. But it's a start. If you are pinching weight, every little bit counts. I wonder if the door comes off and stays off. Door, does it? Yep, it's just like all the GoPro doors. That guy, 1 gram. We're down to 122. So by taking the door off, I probably wouldn't do that for, seriously guys though. I've ejected SD cards when flying GoPros in this configuration. It is worth it to carry a couple of extra grams, not to worry about that SD card coming out and having to search for it in the field. So overall, I am really happy with this GoPro. I really look forward to some better weather days when I can get out there and test it. My footage that you're going to be seeing going forward from this point most likely is going to be the GoPro. As of right now, I've got 1 of the GoPro Minis and 1 of the Action 2s, but I can't get any more Action 2s. Even though I've yet to kill a single Action 2, I still have the original 2 that I started running. I think I'm going to go ahead and trade them in and go to the Hero 11 Mini. The image quality is just that much better on the GoPros over the Action 2s. I have seen it over and over. I want to be able to use stabilization at times. Sometimes we'll have it off, sometimes we'll have it on. But I want that option, which I just don't have with the Action 2. When I was in Hawaii, it would have been a perfect time to run stabilization and do some really cool cinematic stuff, and I just didn't have that option unless I wanted to do the, oh my gosh, unless I wanted to correct it in software after the fact. But in order to do that, I would have to have black box data and do a lot of coordination in order to get that stabilized footage, which I just don't do on a daily basis. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something. Get out there and go fly. Don't forget to hit the like button. Subscribe if you haven't, because there's lots of good stuff coming and in the works. Recently, I even purchased some new equipment that is on its way. We're going to have reviews of the HD0 system, walk snail, more quads, more fixed wings, you name it. Lots of content for you guys. I hope you're enjoying it, and we will see you on the next one. Bye, guys.